Okay, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, anybody from different parts of the world. My pleasure to introduce today's webinar, IUCEE, IFEES, GEDC Global Webinar on Quality Assurance is Essentials with Credentials by Melanie Diaz, Senior Manager of Professional Programs at ABET. Melanie has a passionate, experienced quality assurance, business development, and education leader with a proven track record of expanding the reach of quality training programs globally. Her background in strategic partnerships and market analysis enables her to develop and deliver lifelong learning opportunities to address the skills gap across a multitude of industry sectors. So, assisted here by Jessica Silvic of ABET. So, over to you, Melanie. Look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Krishna, for the introductions, and very excited to be here today. I want to thank Hans, Krishna, and Shadar, and everyone else from IFEES and GEDC, and Jessica Landano for the invitation to present to you today. ABET has been a long-standing partner with these organizations, and as such, we are happy to provide knowledge and information to share with you some things that ABET has been doing lately. And ABET has always been a nonprofit that is very keenly focused on global quality assurance of education programs, not only in the academia space for degree programs through accreditation, but also this latest service that is also quality assurance. It's focused on the emerging increase in credential programs that are being offered around the world. And it's becoming kind of the norm. And so we wanted to mention and to bring to you some information about that new quality assurance service that ABET is offering. And also kind of just set the stage on where we are today as education professionals and how things are changing within the education ecosystem, and why quality assurance is so incredibly essential. So let's start off by talking about what the problem is that we're trying to address here. First of all, it's important to know that by 2030, approximately 85 million jobs could go unfulfilled globally because of lack of applicants with the right skills and very specific skill sets to take those jobs. That's a staggering statistic. And it's not a North America problem. It's not a Europe problem. It's a global problem that we are looking to address. Between a lot of the baby boomers exiting the workforce, or some staying longer than what they expected to, population shifts, and the need to adapt and change is really setting the landscape for why this problem exists. So what are the leaders in STEM, science, technology, and engineering saying? Philip Schmidt, MIT research scientist and director of the Digital Credentials Consortium, said there's a lot of interest in the potential of digital credentials to improve the way we design education programs, manage hiring processes, and support employees through their lifetime careers. So this is the why. What you're going to hear about today, this is the why. Why do we see such an emergence of digital credentials becoming the mainstay as another tool in the learner's toolbox for lifelong learning? Well, it's because the market is requiring a redesign of traditional education systems. And the way in which our industry partners are hiring candidates is changing, and what they're looking for is changing. And of course, we've always been about lifelong learning to support employees and learners throughout their entire journey. Stephen W. McLaughlin, provost and executive vice president for academic affairs at Georgia Tech, quoted, "The world around us is changing rapidly, and we know we need to change with it to continue to fulfill our educational mission." And this is key because change is not an option. Change is absolutely going to be the precipice that requires new ways of thinking and new ways of delivering education to our learners who become employers or employees. And in order to close that workforce gap of the skill sets that are needed today, and they change so ever rapidly, we need to be able to change our mindsets and our strategies on how we deliver education globally. So as you saw, this is not just a professional society challenge. It's also academia. Quotes were coming from academia. It's also a industry a challenge to have to solve. And what we're noticing, one of the trends is that certificates, or you can call them credentials, are being integrated with university degree curriculums. And that's becoming an emerging strategy to bridge academia learning to very specific skills required in practice in industry. This is a trend that is here to stay. So let's talk about the students for a second. It is really critical to understand when we're looking at how education is changing, that students are wanting to take educational experiences and participate in educational experiences, especially if they're having to pay for this education out of their own pocket. They want to make sure that the education that they're receiving comes in the way of trusted credential programs that are verified independently and can have the value that they perceive, as well as the value that will be recognized and awarded by employers in industry. So there was a study that was done, and it basically polled students, and this is what the students said. Approximately 83% of the students surveyed said that skills-based learning should be a priority in higher education. And this is all becoming a very integrated ecosystem. So it's industry working with academia, working with nonprofits, all together working hand in hand. 90% of these students in this study believe that earning an industry recognized credential, especially if it's validated independently by a quality assurance organization, will give them a competitive edge. And 74% say they're more likely to enroll in a degree program if it was through a credential program that is recognized and considered trustworthy and valuable. So credentials are essential, as we mentioned, to the overall education landscape. It's just another tool that the learner can use throughout their lifelong learning process, because they offer verifiable, and that's a very important word, recognition of skills gained throughout a person's career and life, not just in formal education. We're learning from industry that while formal education is still an important element, it may not be exactly what that particular employer is looking for, or they may want additional, very specific, trustworthy skills that can be verified by independent bodies, in addition to the knowledge, skills, and abilities that the learner has earned within their lifelong learning pursuit. And also, it's important to note that there are many different career pathways that a learner can take. Not everyone takes the same journey. Some people, when they graduate from high school, they're immediately enrolled in a 4-year degree or a degree program, if you will, or maybe enroll in a community college. and they know that exactly what they want to do. But uh, I would guess that the majority of learners do not take that pathway. Some are not ready to go to college right away, or maybe they don't have the economic funds to do so. So maybe they go and they try what they think they're interested in, and they try out maybe a trade school, or they just take some education courses, regardless of where that comes from, that build to some sort of designation like a credential that is recognized by a reputable organization. Or there's the other option that the learner can also partake in an actual degree program and then decide, okay, I have for example, a 4-year mechanical engineering degree. Now I want very specified skills. I want to enhance my skills, and I want to focus in this specific area when I am working, because I enjoy this particular space within mechanical engineering, within the entire education domain of mechanical engineering. So they can do that throughout their lifetime, even after being employed as mechanical engineering, getting that degree by taking credentials along the way during their career path. So let's talk about what is changing. I mentioned that the education ecosystem at large is being disrupted. Well, what's causing that? There's 3 major areas that are impacting this change. First of all, learners have new expectations. More and more as new learners enter the workforce, or let's just say new employees enter the workforce, they are very much used to technology. They're very much used to get my education quick and make that $1 million paycheck right away. They want quicker, and they want higher pay. That is the expectation. And so they're looking for short form type of educational experiences, maybe only that, or in addition to a potential degree. So we have to change the way as educators we look at this and change our strategy to adapt to those new learner expectations. And they may not just be sitting in classrooms. They may want to do some online and hybrid type learning programs. And they may also want to do some internships or some projects that the employer needs to as part of their goals need to fulfill, and they're looking for the right talent with the right skills to do a successful job with those project-based learning opportunities. So there's many different changes occurring based upon the learner's new expectations of what they're looking for throughout their career in the way of education. Secondly, employers' requirements. While employers may still, in some cases, depending on the field and the organizations we're talking about in industry, while they may still be looking for a degree and looking at GPAs, they're also very much seeking adaptive skill sets. They want transferable, portable skills that can be independently verified and that can actually be applied immediately once that learner is on the job, or as quickly as possible. And they want to see that the candidates they hire or promote from within can actually demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and abilities based upon an ever-changing, emerging types of technologies that employer may be using within the workplace. So it's really important that the skills are portable, they're verifiable, they're trustworthy, and that the learner can take those skills and actually demonstrate to the employer on the job as quickly as possible that they are able to do those things that credential awarded them. And then, of course, there's technology innovation, right? We all know with the introduction of AI that things are changing so rapidly, it's very difficult to keep up with as a learner, as an employer, and just industry at large. So we as educators need to be prepared for this, and it needs to be a part of our overall strategy of how we deliver education going forward. That's really key. And in real time, of course. So the credential landscape today. Okay, so you can think of credentials as an enabler to workforce development challenges. So we talked about that there are more needs in the workforce than what there are people to fill those needs for very specific knowledge, skills, and abilities. Especially in STEM, this is true. Credentials can serve as that enabler. And credentials also help human resource employees and managers, and also employers looking to hire and identify talent and to cultivate that talent. Credentials also set learners, at least quality credentials, apart from other job applicants. So when you're applying, if a job is open for again, I'll go to a mechanical engineer, there may be thousands of applicants that HR manager needs to go through. And of course, they can use AI type tools to kind of do an initial vetting. But with credentials that are verified and trustworthy, that learner can set themselves apart from the other job pool candidates as a candidate that has very specific knowledge, skills, and abilities that maybe were mentioned in that particular job description. So it's another benefit to offering short form type credential programs for the learner and the employer. And of course, it provides assurance to the overall credential ecosystem, and it addresses needs for lifelong learning and the rapid pace of change to technology. So now that I've set the stage and I've explained the problem that education as a whole globally we're facing, and the role that credentials plays within this ever-changing landscape, I'd like to tell you specifically about the new ABET quality assurance program. It's a service. It's a quality assurance service called Recognition of Credentials. And I'm going to talk you through the process. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how ABET got here and decide to enter this space. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what our pilots said and the feedback we got, and then now kind of where we are today with this program and how you can get involved. Okay, so first, it's important to know that there's a lot of noise and confusion out there about what is a credential. There's many different terms that are being floated around out there, and depending on the offerer of those educational experiences, they may call it different things. Sometimes it means the same thing, and sometimes it could be different. So, for example, another word that could be used for credentials we've seen is like digital badges. We've seen a lot of certificates or micro credentials. And in this case, all of this means the same thing. But if you were to say an accreditation or a certification, those are different things. We are not talking about that today. We're talking about short form educational opportunities called credentials, but they could also go by several of these other names. So for today's presentation, we're going to use a common definition, and we're going to call a credential a non-degree educational experience used to verify the attainment of very specific knowledge, skills, and qualifications or abilities, and the competence within a specific task, field, or profession. So first, let me define for you what recognition of credentials is. That's important. Okay, so the first thing to note is that recognition of credentials, as we define it, is an independent quality assurance service designed to deliver on ABET's purpose and promise to society, which is assuring confidence and value in educational offerings, and specifically targeting our learners and our employers. The learners who invest their resources and time in the pursuit of lifelong learning, and the employers who support those learners' careers, whether it be financially or time away from work to be able to procure those educational experiences. So again, this new service is an independent quality assurance service to review the processes of how a credential program or credentials were designed, developed, and delivered in the attempt to ensure quality within that program. And if it meets our standards, then we would recognize it and give its ABET's seal of approval through a recognition of credentials logo, which you'll see later. So, a few attributes about the recognition of credentials service. It is very flexible in format, and it has to be based upon the amount of change that is occurring in the subjects that are taught through credentials. So, for example, let's just go back to technologies that are changing constantly, like, for example, skills that are being learned within AI. They are very short-term type of educational experiences because the content is very short-term. It may be outdated within 6 months, 3 years, or 6 years, or maybe a month. So it has to be the programs, and this recognition of credentials service has to be nimble and very flexible as we look at the processes, because no two credential programs we're learning are designed the same way. The entire process to go through the recognition of credentials quality assurance review process is less than 6 months. It's very nimble, but yet the standard it is based upon is very thorough and rigorous. And because of its flexible format, we can expand the access globally. And we also are using the same set of standards, whether the credential program was generated by credential offerer in India, in Europe, in North America, in Asia, or anywhere around the world. So we are expanding access, and this review service applies regardless of where the credential offerer who developed that credential is located and offering those credentials. And we review these applications for this quality assurance service quarterly, and all of those reviews are done virtually through either Zoom or Teams call, and or through communication with our evaluators through email communication and meetings. And if the credential program is successfully awarded the designation of the recognition of credentials logo, because they've fully passed and met the standard by which this review is based upon, that designation will be available to that credential and credential offerer over a 3-year period. So it's good for that period of time, the designation of the credential recognition. And it's important to also note that with this service, we are very much looking at the processes that the credential offer used to design, develop, and deploy that credential. And we're looking for continuous quality improvement embedded within that entire development life cycle. We want to see that it's been, the credential offer has a documented CQI process, and we want to ensure that that process is actually being followed. So in a way, you can consider this new quality assurance service recognition of credentials as content agnostic. So regardless of the subject, as long as it is applied and very specifically tailored to a STEM audience, it would be in scope for this type of review. However, we also want to ensure that the people that are designing and developing this credential has the necessary skills and abilities, and that can be validated by our reviewers, and that they are the experts in that content embedded within the actual credential program. So just for clarification, when we talk about scope, one of the things we're learning is that a lot of our customers are they have questions. And so we've developed a frequently asked questions list, and that is on our website at abet.org. And you can find these questions, this frequently asked questions, and some of these questions have, I guess, stemmed to what's in scope and what's out of scope with this service. So just to kind of summarize that, what is in scope is that the recognition is granted to a very specific credential or credentials offered by a particular offerer. And it's also a service that's completely separate from accreditation. Since IFEES and GEDC are also members of ABET, you may know us mostly now for almost 100 years as the quality assurance nonprofit body that actually accredits degree program, and that is true, but it is completely separate from the recognition of credentials quality assurance program. And so it needs to stand on its own. So what the service is not about is we're not recognizing individuals. That would be more like a certification. And this is a recognition of credentials. So we're not recognizing the individual who completed the credential. Again, we're recognizing the actual credential or credentials within that credential program itself. And we're not at this point, which may change in the future, we're not recognizing the actual provider of those credentials at this moment, but that may change going forward. So why did ABET decide to get into this space? There was at least 3 years worth of a lot of research that went on by ABET volunteers and ABET leadership staff that was looking at the need for this service. And there was a big gap, to be frank with you, that there wasn't quality assurance organizations out there vetting these credentials. And as I mentioned, it's a wide gamut of no two credentials are created alike. They're not structured alike. They're not the same level of quality. They're not the same elements within to earn that credential. They can vary significantly. So we needed to, just in general on the education landscape, we needed a way to assess quality, and we needed it to come from an independent body that can be trusted. And so our industry advisory council, some of the members came from industry and came to ABET and said, why are we not in the space? We need to be, because we're known as the global quality assurance standard, the seal of approval for quality assurance services in the education space. Wouldn't we be? We would just be the natural fit globally to provide that service. So based upon that market demand and the push coming from industry for ABET to consider getting into this space, there was a lot of market research that was done. And we actually interviewed and reached out and did a lot of research and included all of the stakeholder groups that we were looking to potentially serve with this new service. And the 3 major target groups we were looking to serve with this service were industry providers who are providing and developing and delivering credentials, so employers and companies. We were looking at academia, who had traditional degree programs, but also maybe continuing ed groups that were looking for short form type education experiences and were already potentially delivering those, but didn't necessarily have a way to have some sort of additional independent review and quality assurance stamp on those programs. So that's an opportunity for academia. And then thirdly, nonprofits, professional societies like IFEES, GEDC, and ABET. We all deliver education programs, and there's many others. We have already one professional society you'll see later in the presentation that has offered credential programs, and they came to us, and their credentials actually did meet the standard, and they were successfully awarded this designation of recognition of their credentials. And there's at least 3 or 4 others in the pipeline right now that are calling us, and we're setting up meetings to talk with them. Other professional societies that offer credentials or in the process of developing credentials, and they want to know more about this service and apply for it. So another reason why ABET in this space is just the societal impact we can make with this type of service for educators and quality education programs. And of course, we have an extensive global reach. So let's talk about the process now that you understand what the recognition of credential service is about, how we got here. Let's talk about the actual process. If you are a organization, a nonprofit organization, or any type of institution or organization that is offering credentials, and you're interested in potentially applying for this quality assurance independent globally recognized service, the first thing you would do is submit an application to request to apply for this service. And what will happen is this application, you'll pay a upfront fee for the application itself that's non-refundable. And assuming that this application is approved, you'll go to the next step of the process. One of the things that the staff is looking for when we're reviewing this application is to ensure that it is a quality organization that is in good standing. In other words, it's not an organization that just opened up or is about to actually go out of business or has financial or legal challenges. We're looking for a solid, good standing, in good faith type of organization that's delivering those credentials as a candidate before we would approve the application. And we want to ensure, as you described, the general basis of the overall program of your credentials that you're submitting and requesting to have reviewed, that the structure of your credential program meets our business model for this service. So once the application is approved, the next thing as the credential offer would be that you as the credential offer would complete a self-assessment report. And that generally takes anywhere from 20 to 30 hours on average. And it's really kind of diving down deeper into the structure of your credentials and how many learners you have actually put through that program. Who are your stakeholders? Do you have proof and validation that the resumes of the backgrounds of the people that are designing and developing your credential meet the quality standards and do have the expertise to do a quality job of designing and delivering those credentials. So all of that information would be gathered and you as the credential offer would complete that self-assessment and submit it upon completion. Then what happens is we have what's called CEVs, credential evaluators, a team of credential evaluators that have been vetted, that have to go through very defined training and have to have a certain background to be approved as an ABET CEV. Those credential evaluators would be assigned to the review for your review specifically. And they're going to be looking at your self-assessment and application, and the self-assessment, all the information that's provided in that document by you as the credential provider is looking to see, do you meet every element of the recognition of credentials standard? And it'll take you step by step. The self-assessment report is really kind of a mirror image of all the elements within the standard. And you're filling out information and verifying how you meet that element of the standard. So that's what the credential evaluation team is going to be reviewing during this process. And then they will have dialogue with you back and forth to answer any additional questions or get clarity around the information you provided in that self-assessment report. And that's an opportunity for you as a credential provider to ask additional questions of our review team as well. And along the process, they're giving you areas of improvement or making suggestions as well so that you can improve the quality of your program, which is a huge benefit to the credential offer. And assuming the credential process goes as planned, and once the clarification is gained by the credential review team of what you put within the self-assessment document, a determination will be made whether or not that actual credential or credentials has been recognized. It'll either be yes or no, and it's either that credential or credentials submitted in that application meet the standard 100% or they do not. If they do not meet the standard 100%, there's always the opportunity to go as the credential provider and make improvements to your program based upon the feedback of where the credential fell short of being in compliance with the standard. They can go away and make those improvements and later come back at a later quarter and reapply. And that's perfectly fine to do so. So it is important to note that when you submit an application, you can either submit one credential or you can submit many credentials all at the same time in one application, depending on the status of readiness of your credential program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So I mentioned the standards. So let me tell you the types of things that the standard is looking to address. The first is that the credential delivers what is promised to the learner. We call this truth in advertising. We want to ensure that how you market your credential program, that if you say that the learner should be able to do X, Y, or Z, or apply these skills and X, Y, or Z specific knowledge, skills, or abilities, that that's actually what the learner walks away with, and that you can demonstrate and prove to the evaluation team that it does. So that's first and foremost one of the questions that the standard is looking to address. Additionally, do you have overarching educational goals for this credential program, and are the learning outcomes met as advertised? And you may have a one-to-many scenario where you've got, let's say, 10 online courses that lead to one credential. And maybe even that credential requires some sort of project work in addition to that on the job. However you structure that credential program, it's important that it's clearly stated what those educational goals are for that program and what successful attainment of that credential looks like. And that's clearly spelled out and delivered as such to the learner. We are also looking, as I mentioned previously, that the people who develop and deliver those educational experiences through your credential program have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and that you can provide that verification that they do. Because we're relying on those content developers and delivers to be the subject matter experts in the field and the body of knowledge contained within those education programs that lead to a credential being recognized. And we would not be ABET if we did not have an element of our recognition of credential standard that did not include continuous improvement processes. And we're looking to see that that is the fabric and the thread throughout the entire design, development, and delivery life cycle of your credential program. So are you gathering feedback from all of your stakeholder groups, one of which being learners and any other stakeholder groups that credential program was designed to cater to? Are you ensuring that you're gathering feedback from them and analyzing that data and then incorporating that data to make decisions about what changes need to be made to improve your program? And we'll look for evidence of that through the review cycle. So this is on our website, know before you go kind of information. This is really important. We get a lot of questions around this, is how ready is my credential or credentials programs for this independent quality assurance service? Well, what you can do, you can code and it'll link you to our website. And you can also read here that it gives you a couple of prerequisite requirements that must be in place before you're going to be in a steady state to be able to say that you're ready for this type of review. If, for example, I mentioned this earlier, a documented and executed continuous quality improvement process. and then a full life cycle where you're gathering that data and evaluating it and implementing improvements. And you have to have at least one learner. Ideally, we'd like to see a lot more than one learner going through that and providing feedback. If your credential, after it goes through this less than 6 month process with us, is fully in compliant with the standard, the decision will be that you have successfully achieved and deserve the recognition of that credential by ABET, and you would receive these logos to be able to place beside the actual credential names that were recognized. And there'll be a marketing style and usage guide that will describe exactly where you can place these logos and in what circumstances. So it's a guide to kind of tell you how you can use that once you've successfully achieved recognition by ABET of those credentials. These are some of the testimonials that we received from some of the organizations that were our pilots. And actually, since we've launched the service back in fall of last year, continue to submit new additional credentials. You can see ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers. They were one of the pilots. And just like all of us, mostly on this phone, we work for professional societies. ASCE is one of those professional societies. And they, along with our industry partner, Siemens, and also our academic partner, Purdue Online, went through the pilot. And there were some organizations and institutions that went through the pilot that their credentials were not recognized because they did not meet the standard. But these three did meet the standard and their credentials were recognized. And these are just some of the feedback that we received because we also are about continuous improvement of our new service. And we want that stakeholder feedback. So the common thread here, you can see the comments they made in the testimonials that they provided us. The common thread was that they really enjoyed the consultative approach that ABET took through the review process and that they were able to make changes to the program, to their credential program based upon the feedback they received from their credential evaluators. So, and there was also some comments that were made that in some cases, their credential program saw an uptick in attendance of their educational programs. And of course, that's anecdotal, but while they did not dig into that further to see if it was directly related to this review process, they saw that increase in attendance after they were successfully awarded and made changes to their program based upon this service and the lessons learned from this service. These are the organizations that I mentioned earlier, and you can see that the subjects themselves change from one credential to the next, from construction engineering to civil infrastructure to machine learning to data science and AI. There's many different sustainability topics. So the subjects can change, but they all should apply these credential programs to STEM professionals. And if you want to know more about some of the credentials that and the organizations that provided those credentials that have actually been successful in getting the recognition, you can scan this QR code and you'll see a list from our website. Or you can go to abet.org and click on the main menu and click on recognition, and you can see those at the bottom of our recognition page as well. Okay, just a time check. We have about 16 minutes and I'm nearing the end of the presentation. So I'm going to give an opportunity for our COO, CFO, Jessica Silwick, who's also on this call, to add any additional comments and then also allow for questions and answers if you'd like to take yourself off mute after we get through the presentation. So what is the ask? Hello? Oh, I thought someone was speaking. So what is the ask of IFEES and GEDC members societies? Well, a couple of things. We'd like for you to consider this recognition of credentials independent quality assurance review for your credentials. And we'd like you actually are developing or already delivering those credentials, and you are welcome to put that information in the chat. We'd like to hear from you if you're currently involved in delivering credentials, education credentials. And consider this independent recognition of credential service. I would like to know if you have an interest in that. We'd like for you to be our advocates and promoters and tell others. Word of mouth is very powerful, and coming from other associations, professional societies that happen to be ABET members would be just ideal, because we really are here to help improve the level of quality in credentialing as a whole. That's our underlying mission. And be advocates and promoters. And if you have any particular professional society events you go to, other than ASEE and maybe CES, if you've heard of CES, we'd like to hear about those particular events. You're welcome to put that in the chat, or reach out to us after this webinar, because we're looking to attend some of these events to further spread the reach and provide the awareness that this service exists. And last but not least, if there's anything else we should know about feedback about just demand in the professional society world for a service like this. And, if you have an interest and you have a background as an educator and in quality assurance, we'd love to hear from you if you'd be interested in being a potential credential evaluator, or if you know someone else that might be interested, you could help us recruit those CEVs. So if you'd like to know more about this new service and you'd like to stay in touch with us, or you actually have some credentials that you have questions about whether or not this would be a fit, you can scan this QR code and it'll link you to an interest form. That interest form will then give us information about your contact details, as well as what your questions are, how we can help you in assuring quality within credentials. And if you want to schedule a meeting with us, you can also list that there, because there's a free form text field for you to communicate with us. And we'll get back to you, and we can set up a meeting if you have an interest, especially if you're delivering credentials. So what are the key takeaways from this presentation? First of all, the educational landscape is continuing to evolve, and we need to evolve with it. And because credentials are bridging the critical gaps out there with what industry needs and workforce demands, micro-credentials is another tool within the education toolbox to deliver those experiences and to close that gap of what industry needs versus what candidates are supplying. We want to ensure that there's a match there, and micro-credentials can create that bridge. And with that, because there's so many different levels of quality within credentials, we want to ensure that we can trust and verify the competence and the attainment of those knowledge, skills, and abilities promised. So quality assurance is absolutely essential in this space. And STEM educators are requiring new approaches as a result of all of this. So understanding the digital threads and ecosystem demands need to be flexible, but also very focused type of learning on specific outcomes, learner outcomes. And the future is continuous learning. That is not optional. So quality assured micro-credentials enables those lifelong learning skill development. This is how you can reach out to us if you'd like to contact us. You can go to abet.org/recognition to learn more about the service. You can email, we have an email inbox for this new service, recognition@abet.org, or you can actually reach out directly to me at mdiaz@abet.org. On a side note, I just wanted to mention that ABET is having its annual symposium in 2027 in Seattle, Washington, and we'd love to have you be a part of that too. And it's going to be held on April the 8th and 9th, 2027. So mark your calendars and join us. Maybe you want to be an exhibitor. Maybe you want to just come and attend these sessions. There definitely will be more information and sessions about this recognition and credential service, because it is such a critical part of the future of education. So with that, before we get into questions, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I give an opportunity for our COO, CFO, Jessica Silwick, who has been instrumental in getting us to this place, to see if she has any additional comments she would like to make about this new service. And then we'll hop into additional questions that, if they haven't already been answered, within the chat.
Hi, Melanie.
Jessica?
You did a fantastic job providing a lot of information, a wealth of information to the attendees today at a very high level to give an idea of what the service is about and the importance of it and the variety of learners that we share. My only recommendation would be that Melanie and I are always available and happy to schedule meetings to chat with anyone who would like more information or need more details about the recognition of credential. Been getting a lot of chats in the box that I've been replying to the meeting chat. I just want to make abundantly clear, and this not just with this group, we find this with many, many groups. ABET has been an accreditation organization for the past 75 years plus. We're going on 100 actually in 1932. But we are a quality assurance agency, and that goes well beyond our accreditation services. So accreditation is our quality assurance service for 2- and 4-year programs earning a degree, whereas the recognition of credentials is a completely total opposite quality assurance service. So like accreditation is a quality assurance service for educational opportunities. However, the recognition of credentials is a different set of standards and processes that allow ABET to give our globally recognized quality assurance seal on credential learning opportunities. And that's whether they're stackable or not stackable, industry provided, collaboration between industry, university, just university, professional societies, you name it. So there is no intersection between accreditation and the recognition of credential services, other than the fact that they are both quality assurance services that serve educational opportunities.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry, were you finished?
I'm finished. Yes. Just again, I want to remind people that it's a lot to digest. Melanie, you gave everyone a lot of information. And just to reassure everyone that we are extremely happy to follow up any conversation that anyone on this webinar may have.
Yes, and thank you for the designation and the differences, explaining the differences between accreditation. Accreditation is like an 18-month process, whereas recognition is 5 months. So there's many differences, and they are separate. That's not to say that academic institutions can't take some courses within their degree program and repurpose them into a credential program, but that's another story for another day. But I think Jessica clearly explained the major key differences. And we are here to serve you. So let us know, reach out. I see a lot of good chat, and thank you, Jessica, for answering the questions that are in the chat. What other questions does anyone want to come off of mute and either ask questions or make comments? We have a few minutes to do that.
A lot of discussion has happened in chat box already, I noticed. That's very good. Anybody want to unmute and ask a question or put in some more questions in the chat box? Welcome to do that. Okay, if not, I guess I want to thank Melanie and Jessica that you've given excellent presentation, and it's so very clear that nobody has any questions right now, but some of them did ask for the recording, and that will be available. We do have the recording made. It will be available to be sent to IFEES and also ABET, and they can be used as appropriate for sending it to the participants. I think we have a list of participants also that will be made available for you to contact. So over to you, Hans.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a fabulous session, Melanie. Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and the insights. And of course, Jessica, we deeply value our both personal and professional institutional relationships with both of you and the entire ABET community. Before I just make another couple of I did have one question. I was just thinking because I'm working so closely, and I know you work with many in other countries, and you will be in Cartagena, where we have our global conference this year in September, Cartagena, Colombia, to which we want to invite all of you. But you'll also have a very special sessions there, a whole space that you. One of the questions I have, and it's a challenge. We have close relationships. I know you do in Latin America and in other parts. What for just a couple of comments. What are your connections in Africa? Obviously we're talking about 54 countries, very complex, very diverse culturally, historically, and I'm working very diligently to increasingly engage our African colleagues with our global community. I just wondered if you want to make a comment there, and I'll then make a couple of other final comments. And Melanie and Jessica, any question, right?
Yes, so we do have partnerships in Africa currently. We have three letters of intent to collaborate and partner that we just signed this September in Morocco at the African Engineering Education Forum, and with three different organizations, one of which is focused on building an accreditation body of their own. Another one is focused on the recognition of credentials in the credential space itself and providing pathways for learners in Africa to either enter into a career or pathways into higher ed as well. So we are working with them. We've had meetings with UNESCO as well. We are at the beginning phases though, still, and we haven't developed any solid programs as of yet.
No, no, no. Thank you very much in any way that I can be of support to your awesome community, because it's very, very important to us, to me, and so forth. Just a final comment. I mean, I look forward to see not only my wonderful ABET colleagues and friends, but also others that I hear joining the ASCE conference in June, where we will be hosting an IFEES GDC session and then a reception dinner over many, many years, where we bring the IFEES and GDC community together and have so for many years, and look forward to see some of you. One other thing, besides I just mentioned our Cartagena Global Conference, I'm very happy to share with you that we are celebrating our 20th IFEES anniversary, not the 100-year experience of ABET, but it's been a beautiful journey, continues to be a beautiful journey to work with many of you on this 20th IFES anniversary, which we'll be celebrating in Cartagena, Colombia. With that, my dear friends, colleagues, it's a real genuine pleasure. It's been a very thoughtful presentation. Peace be with you, and look forward to continue our partnerships and collaborations at a global level. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Good day. Good
Thanks,
day. Good
everyone.
night.
Thank you, Hans.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.